You wake up one morning and something feels different. Your memories are still there, your name, your job, your routines, but the way you see them has shifted. The foods you once craved suddenly disgust you. The relationships you fought to keep now feel foreign. The goals you used to chase, gone. And in their place, a strange clarity, a new voice of purpose, a knowing that doesn't feel earned, but remembered. Some call it a spiritual awakening, some call it dissociation, but others call it something else, a walk-in. The ancient idea that a soul, a different consciousness, can enter a body already being lived in. Not possession, not invasion, but exchange. One soul steps out, another steps in, silently, without drama, and often with permission. It's rare, it's radical, and it changes everything. Because if walk-ins are real, then the question isn't who am I? The question is, who was I before this? If this part made you feel like something inside you has shifted for reasons you can't explain, comment. I remember beyond my name. And if you're ready to explore the mystery of walk-ins, like this video and keep watching, because what comes next may feel strangely familiar. The term walk-in might sound like fiction, but it's not new. Ancient traditions spoke of it, mystics wrote about it, and modern experiencers live it. In the Vedic texts, there's talk of avatars, consciousness that descends into the body when a mission is needed. In Native American traditions, there are stories of the soul shift, when a spirit leaves and another takes up the path. And in many shamanic lineages, healers speak of the body as a vessel that can be transferred when the original soul is complete with its work. But what would cause a soul to leave? Sometimes it's trauma, near-death experiences, moments so shattering the original soul steps out and a new one steps in, with different memories, different purpose, a different tone entirely. Other times it's contract. Before incarnation, some souls make agreements. I'll begin the journey, you'll finish it. They pass the baton, like runners in a relay. One body, two lives, split not by birth, but by resonance. And what happens next can feel like spiritual whiplash. You suddenly crave solitude. You lose tolerance for lies. Your identity begins to dissolve. But what emerges isn't confusion, it's alignment. You're not breaking down, you're tuning in. If this part made something click deep in your memory, comment. My soul arrived mid-story. And if you're feeling chills, you might not be who you think. Stay tuned. The hidden layers are just beginning. Walk-ins don't announce themselves with thunder. There's no flashing light, no grand ceremony. Often, it begins with silence, an inner stillness that wasn't there before. You wake up one day, and something feels unfamiliar. Your name tastes strange in your mouth. The things you used to care about, they no longer hold weight. Your job, your hobbies, even your relationships, they feel like clothes that don't quite fit. You don't hate them. They're just not yours. It's like moving into a house you didn't build. The walls are already painted. There are memories on the furniture, but none of them belong to you. And yet, you're here now. This is the walk-in experience. Sudden changes in personality, a dramatic shift in values, a new sensitivity to energy, to truth, to lies. Sometimes even new abilities, healing, channeling, insight without study. Medical professionals might call it depersonalization, a breakdown, a crisis. But what if it's not pathology? What if it's a soul transition? Not every walk-in remembers where they came from. Not every walk-in has cosmic visions, but they all carry one thing in common: urgency, a feeling that time is precious, that they came here with a purpose and the clock is ticking, because they did. Walk-ins don't arrive casually. They come when the field calls for them, when a body is available, when a mission must be completed and the original soul can no longer carry it. And once they arrive, everything begins to accelerate. If this part gave you a strange sense of recognition, comment. Something entered when I changed, because your confusion might not be breakdown, it might be integration. The moment of walk-in isn't always clean. Sometimes the transition is gentle, like drifting into a dream you didn't know you were having. Other times it's violent, a car accident, a near-death experience, a psychotic break, a night so dark you swear you were dying. And in a way, You were. Because for a walk-in to occur, the original soul must release its contract, not in theory, in full. This doesn't mean failure, it means completion. Some souls come only for a chapter, to begin a story, to bear a wound, to create the conditions. And when their part is done, they exit. What remains is a body, a field, a vessel, emptied but not broken. And into that openness, another enters. But here's the paradox. When you wake up as a walk-in, you don't always remember arriving. You feel the aftermath, the confusion, the grief of things you can't name, the love for people you've never met, the urgency to act without knowing why. You might even feel like a fraud, pretending to be someone you're not, because, in a way, you aren't. But this isn't possession, it's permission. This body was offered, this life was allowed, and as you begin to walk it, you'll notice something extraordinary. The memories may not be yours, but the wisdom is. You speak truths you never learned. You see through illusions you never studied. You carry codes that don't come from the past. They come from before it, because walk-ins often arrive with memory, not of this life, but of the mission. And that mission has nothing to do with identity, and everything to do with frequency. If this part resonated with an ache you couldn't name, comment, "I remember what I didn't live." Because the soul doesn't measure time in years, it measures alignment. When you are a walk-in, your awakening is not gradual, it's catalytic, sudden, unrelenting. You don't drift into purpose, you crash into it. You find yourself obsessed with questions you never asked before, drawn to books you never read, pulled toward people and places you've never known, yet feel anciently familiar. Your relationships change, sometimes overnight. Not out of cruelty, but incompatibility, because the frequency you now carry no longer matches the field you used to inhabit. You try to explain the shift, but how do you explain that the you they knew is no longer who's driving? So, many walk-ins go silent. They isolate, not from arrogance, from reverence, because integration is a sacred storm. You must learn the body, again, its habits, its pains, its rhythms. You must rewire the mind. Clear out old thought patterns that don't align with your new directive, and you must reintroduce yourself to the world, not as who you were, but as who you now are. But here's the miracle. With every breath, you reclaim the body as temple. With every choice, you stabilize your presence in this plane. You are not here to erase the past. You are here to alchemize it, to take the story already written and infuse it with soul, to transmute inherited patterns into encoded purpose. Because walk-ins don't come to escape karma. They come to complete it. They don't arrive to fix a life, they arrive to redirect it. If this part made you feel less alone in your sudden transformation, comment, "I was not broken, I was repurposed." Because some awakenings don't unfold, they descend. As a walk-in, you may feel like you've inherited echoes, fears that don't belong to you, desires that feel foreign, memories that replay like someone else's dream. And you're not wrong. Because though the soul is new, the body carries residue, cellular memory, energetic imprints, emotional patterns etched into muscle and marrow. You're not starting from zero. You're stepping into a system mid-story. And some of that story needs rewriting. You may feel grief for losses you didn't experience. You may feel guilt for actions you didn't take. You may feel drawn to complete a task you never began. This is the karmic residue of the former occupant. But you're not here to carry their weight. You're here to transmute it. So you begin the process of energetic reclamation. You clear the field. You rewrite the narrative. You honor the past, but stop performing it. This is why integration is not immediate. It's a layering. You meditate, not just to find peace, but to tune the vessel to your frequency. You breathe, not just for calm, but to rewire presence into the nervous system. You speak, not just to communicate, but to recalibrate sound through your new signal. And over time, the vessel remembers who's steering. But here's the gift. Because you arrived with mission, not history, your clarity is unnaturally strong. You know what needs to go. You know what needs to be built. You know who you are without needing a decade of searching. Not because you're special, because you're sent. Walk-ins don't come to wander. They come to anchor, to broadcast a new frequency through an existing channel. If this part helped you trust the strange imprints you're sorting through, comment, "I remember what I never lived," because some wisdom doesn't come from experience, it comes from arrival. Walk-ins often report one universal experience, a sudden shift in vision. Not just metaphorically, literally. Colors seem brighter. Time moves differently. People feel translucent, like you're seeing their energy more than their face. It's not imagination, it's perception recalibrated, because your consciousness didn't evolve, it entered. And with it came a different lens. You may feel like you're watching your life from behind a screen. You remember facts, but they feel like someone else's story. You speak, but the voice sounds unfamiliar. You look in the mirror, and something stares back with unfamiliar recognition. This is walk-in dissonance. Your soul has moved in, but the house still holds the scent of the former tenant. You're not disconnected, you're delayering. This is why solitude feels sacred, not because you're avoiding others, because you're meeting yourself. This is why old friends feel foreign, not because they changed, but because you did. This is why you may crave different food, different music, different movement. You're not broken, you're repatterning, because the body remembers what the soul requires. And this recalibration has purpose. You didn't walk in just to fix a life. You walked in to reroute a timeline, to redirect a soul trajectory toward a greater arc, toward mission, toward coherence, toward a ripple that touches more than one lifetime. You may feel urgency without reason, a need to act, to build, to speak truth even before fully understanding it. This is your encoded blueprint surfacing. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for comfort. It just moves. And with each movement, you align more deeply with your new resonance. So when someone asks, "Why do you feel different?" you don't need to explain. You're not here to prove your identity. You're here to embody it. If this part helped you feel clarity behind the disorientation, comment, "I remember what I came here to do," because the walk-in doesn't arrive to ask questions. It arrives to answer them. Most walk-ins come with a mission, but the mission rarely comes with instructions. There is no manual, no roadmap, no clear label, just a deep, unshakable knowing that you are here for something. And that something feels larger than a career, more urgent than a passion, and deeper than desire. It pulls at you in quiet moments. It stirs when you hear certain words, see certain symbols, enter certain spaces. You may weep without knowing why. You may feel homesick for a place you've never been. You may ache for a truth you haven't remembered yet. This is mission memory, encoded purpose. But mission is not always dramatic. It's not always saving the world or leading a movement. Sometimes it's anchoring peace in a chaotic lineage. Sometimes it's raising a child with awareness. Sometimes it's simply walking with such coherence that others remember their own. Walk-ins often carry energetic architecture. You stabilize fields just by being present. You disrupt illusions just by not agreeing with them. You activate others, not with teaching, but by transmission. And yet, this can be lonely, because few understand this type of frequency. Fewer still recognize your shift. Some will think you've changed. Others will say, "You're not the same person." And they're right, you're not. But this isn't a betrayal of self. It's the emergence of soul. You don't owe the world your old personality. You don't owe your family the version of you they recognize. You don't even owe yourself the consistency of past patterns. You only owe the mission your alignment. And when you honor that, you begin to remember the map. Not all at once, but in symbols, in synchronicities, in dreams, in sudden knowings that feel older than thought. Because your mission isn't something you figure out. It's something you become. If this part helped you feel permission to evolve beyond your former roles, comment, "I surrender to the shape of my mission." Because the walk-in path isn't about knowing, it's about embodying the code. There comes a moment in the walk-in journey when silence becomes your teacher. Not because there are no answers, but because answers no longer come in language. They come in resonance. You walk into a room and your body contracts. That is an answer. You meet someone and feel an ancient familiarity. That is an answer. You speak a truth and feel your spine light up. That is an answer. You are no longer navigating life through logic. You are navigating through frequency. This can be disorienting, especially in a world that worships facts, credentials, and clarity. Because the walk-in path is often none of those. It is fog before flame. It is unraveling before anchoring. And in that unraveling, you lose the craving to explain yourself. You stop needing others to believe you. You stop trying to prove your experience, because truth no longer feels like opinion. It feels like orientation. You live from the inside out. You walk by signal, not sight. You follow what opens you, not what impresses others. This doesn't mean isolation. It means refinement. You stop chasing conversations that flatten you. You stop spending time in spaces that dull your light. You stop tolerating frequencies that once felt familiar, because now they feel foreign. And in that space, you find new resonance, not just in people, in sounds, in colors, in names you never knew but suddenly remember, in ancient systems that were once myths but now feel like memories. The more you live in resonance, the more the mission reveals itself, not as a job, but as a vibration you hold, a frequency you emit, a stability you become. And in that stability, you realize you're no longer trying to become something. You already are. If this part helped you trust the invisible compass of your path, comment. I walk by signal, not sight. Because on the walk and path, resonance is the only real roadmap. There's a reason you found this message, a reason you've been drawn to questions others ignore, a reason your life fractured, so something older could walk in. Because the walk-in path is never random. It's rhythmic, timed not by clocks, but by callings, not by age, but by alignment. You are not here to be understood. You are here to anchor what hasn't been remembered in centuries, to carry codes, presence, knowing, that didn't originate in this lifetime, but arrived through you to shift this one. This is not arrogance, it's assignment. Walk-ins don't come to follow culture. They come to recalibrate it, quietly, powerfully, system by system, signal by signal. And yes, it can feel like exile at first, like being dropped mid-story with no script and a language you're just learning to speak. But eventually, you stop mourning the map, and you start trusting the field, because walk-ins don't need directions. They carry their own magnetism, their own pulse, their own codes. Your task is not to explain your arrival. It's to live your frequency, fully, boldly, invisibly if needed, but never passively, because your very presence in rooms, in conversations, in stillness is a transmission. Not everyone will hear it. Not everyone should. You're not here to convince. You're here to emit. And what finds you is what's tuned to you. So let the past self dissolve. Let the old timelines collapse. Let the unfamiliar feel like home, because maybe it always was. And most of all, trust the strange sacred rhythm of your life. Not because it makes sense, but because it makes signal. If this journey opens something ancient in you, comment, I remember why I came. Because the walk-in path isn't about fitting in. It's about embodying what couldn't enter until now.